So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. And today is Friday, December 17th, 2021. And our calling number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And with all the other things going on, it would definitely help to not have a monologue. So if you do have comments and questions when Michael gets on, then please press 1 and let's hear your input. If you weren't on the show yesterday, we'll just announce again that the app has on both the iPhone, the Apple, and Google Play Store. And there are lots of new features in the app. And we invite you to upgrade the app. It's free. And just play with it, put it to use, look at all the features. It has the ability to, no matter what page you're on, if a question comes up, so if you're in the middle of a worksheet and you're like, okay, I don't understand this, drop us a question right there. And then you can keep on going. So it's got some really cool features to it. I'll also say we announced yesterday, and it's on the website in several places, the Coptic Conference is coming up in January, and Michael is one of the 20 speakers that's in that, and it's an awesome lineup of folks. It's online. It's a Saturday and a Sunday, and it's only $25 for the 2 days. It supports the Coptic. And you can click on that information and download the flyer, register for it. All of that's on the website. The monthly breath workshop goes on, so that information's out there, and the self-study, codependence to interdependence. So, and there's some other events that are going to be coming up. I don't have all the information yet, but we'll get those on the website, and you'll be able to see what's going on and tap into more and more events. And I see Michael's with us now, so I'll just say welcome, Michael.
I am. Thank you, sweetie, and welcome, everybody. Delighted and honored that you're here once again as we carry forward the conversation about first-century Aramaic forgiveness. Thank you, everyone, for your love and prayers sending in our direction as we pass through the challenge of COVID. We have a household of 3, and all 3 of us have been touched by the gift of COVID. I'm starting to realize to some degree what a gift it is. And if everyone would, I don't know, Jeannie, whether you mentioned your dad or not yet, but last night he ended up with his oxygen level dropping, so he did an emergency run to the hospital. So he's in the hospital today, in good hands. Probably better hands than he would be here with the challenges we're facing. But please continue to send that love and support. Personally, I'm experiencing, getting a whole new insight into the health disease continuum, realizing that, for instance, we think of, say, we've got these antibiotic-resistant bugs, and what made these antibiotic-resistant bugs? Antibiotics. So every time you go to poison a bug, and your poison isn't effective at killing 100% of the bugs get stronger. It's actually to the point where people who spend their lives studying these things are telling us that probably more people will die of antibiotic-resistant bugs by 2050 than will be dying of cancer, which is, at such record proportions right now. What does that mean? Drugs create superbugs. What I'm realizing, what I'm seeing going through COVID here personally, and recognizing we live in a culture that tells us, well, you can't have immunity unless you have our product, where the truth is you can't have immunity if you eat the SAD diet, if you live in hostility and fear, you're living in immune-compromising situations, and when you don't have immunity, bugs kill you. But if you're taking care of your immunity, if you actually have immunity, if you have a system that operates, If you eat the SAD diet, you can't have good immunity. If you eat what this culture tells you, sophistry rules the food world. And sophistry, if you remember, the sophists were a group of Greek philosophers who traveled around Greece charging big bucks to the wealthy for teaching the children of the wealthy how to lie and make their lies appear true. Sophists. Now, if you go into, I would dare say, 99% of restaurants in America today, and you order yourself a sandwich, the 2 pieces of white poison that surround that sandwich are nutrition-free. They're poisons. They're not food. But you're told they're food. Oh, you're getting a sandwich. This is food. No food there. That's a lie. The SAD diet, what's taken over the food world today, in America especially, is that the food purveyors have learned, number one, how to grow food without nutrition in it. Basically, in order to get nutrients to come out of, let's say, that piece of rock that the soil sits on, there has to be life. There have to be organisms that break that rock down and make the nutrients available that are in the rock. Now, if you happen to be of the mega business of growing food, agribusiness, you perhaps are a believer that the first thing you do when you're going to grow a new crop is you pour 10 gallons of poisonous, cancer-causing glyphosate on each acre of land you're going to grow on to kill absolutely everything before you start to grow. What does that mean? It guarantees there's no nutrition in the food, because the organisms that are designed to break down the soil and produce the nutrients in an absorbable form for the plants are killed. Then what few nutrients are perhaps in it, they learned how to break it down, and we call it refined, as though that was some sort of an upgrade. Refined means we learned how to break this down still further. We learned how to steal all the nutrients out of it and sell it for profit to the pig farmers, and we learned how to hire Madison Avenue and make money promoting the idea that this builds bodies in 12 ways. In other words, how to lie to you and tell you that they're selling you food. If you eat that, you can't have immunity. You better get yourself a pill or a shot or something to try and get some sort of immunity. Big, big business. But if you actually are in tune with your body, if you actually eat food with nutrition, if you actually have the proper fuel in your body that's designed to fuel thinking, feeling, and function, that is, that love is present there, then something may come along to challenge your health. One of the things that's happening with today is COVID. And what I'm really understanding, what I'm really seeing as I'm personally experiencing this, is that, we take care of ourselves nutritionally. We keep our D3 up. We keep our zinc up. We keep, the nutrients that the structure needs. We do selenium every day. We do iodine. We do things that support immunity. If your culture's not taught you that, and it amazes me that the medical profession's out there telling us all sorts of things, but you hardly hear a doctor talking about, here's how you support your immunity. Well, we do that. So along comes COVID. We've shielded as well as we could, and through a kind of a crazy exposure that happened about 2 weeks ago, we ended up bringing it to the house. And what's this, day 4, honey, day 5? What I'm really watching in my body is I can feel that my immune system is on high alert. Jean mentioned, I think it was yesterday, that she's been having some neck challenges, some neck pain. And since having COVID, which has been, seriously challenging symptomatically, About 90% of her neck pain's gone. What does that say? It says her immune system was challenged, and being challenged, it's on guard, and boom, 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 doing its work, cleaning up what's created the offensive neck pain. I'm seeing that in my own structure. I'm really realizing that, especially when I sleep, when my immune system's on high alert, and it's cleaning junk up that otherwise I didn't have the vitality to clean up. Thank you, COVID. Now, if I had no immunity, if I ate the sad diet, if I lived in hostility and fear all the time, I probably wouldn't be breathing well enough to talk to you on day 5 of COVID or laughing about it. I'm not saying it's been easy. There's been some challenging moments. But really realizing that just like the drug challenges the bug and the bug gets stronger, what I'm realizing is the virus is in fact a gift. It's not a gift to the individual who dies because they don't have the resources to be strong enough to handle it. But it is a gift in that it challenges the whole system, puts it on peak alert, and causes it to go to work on a new level. And I'm really seeing and appreciating that at this point in day 5 of experiencing COVID. And if you want to have a really, truly strong immune system, then, you need to throw out, literally go into your cupboards and everything that isn't food, get rid of it and eat only food. We've kind of started a tradition at night and in the morning. One of the things I do last thing at night, we usually watch something on TV. That's our kind of entertainment, our escape. And last thing at night, we've taken to peeling and eating an apple together. And first thing in the morning, before either of us gets out of bed now, we're just relaxing, taking care of ourselves, and eating an apple, eating food, and realizing the sweetness of that and the benefit of that, and that there are nutrients your structure needs in order to have an immune system that functions. And you need to really look into what causes immunity to work. There are things out there like elderberry. There are things like selenium. Selenium, if you eat Brazil nuts, that selenium is a birth control pill for viruses. It inhibits viruses replicating in the system. So you need selenium. And, decades ago they were informing Congress that the soils in America were devoid of selenium. If you don't keep your energy system peaked with the proper energy flow, the presence of love, then your cells are going to tend to break down and dysfunction. You want to eat actual whole foods in as whole a form possible with actual nutrition in it. So that your food, that the food you're eating is grown on soil that actually has bionutrients available. So I'm really seeing the gift of a virus challenging immunity, taking immunity to its peak, to its top, and it's going to wipe out a lot of people who don't have a system that can do that. And if you're taking care of it, then you strengthen and you move to the next level. So I'm going to just offer a little thank you there. And again, the invitation to continue to send support. We are deeply appreciative of it. And especially to Dad. It turned out last night they tested him, and when they got him to the hospital and he has COVID, he was having trouble keeping his oxygen level up, so we called a nurse in to check him out. And he's got some slight pneumonia in each lung, which he's had a tendency toward for years, and so this challenge has kind of tweaked him to the next level. So he's getting some really good care. Spoken to a couple of physicians and nurses, and all doing very sweet. And by the way, sending love and prayers and support in the direction of all healthcare providers. I don't know what your city's like, but right now, he went in there last night at about 11 o'clock, Jeannie, something like that. 10:30 arrived, and he still doesn't have a room. He's still in the emergency room because they have nowhere to put him. The hospital's so full, so jammed with people.
Well, they actually picked him up around 7, but before we got the first report on him, it was close to 11.
Reports, yeah.
And that's when they decided they were going to admit him, but he's still in the ER.
And when you talked to them, what, an hour and a half ago or so, did they have an idea when they have a room for him yet?
No, he's supposed to call me back and actually let me speak to Dad, so I haven't heard back from him yet.
Anyway, it just speaks of how overwhelmed they are. So if you know a healthcare provider, send them love and support and express appreciation toward them, because they are, one, putting themselves at deep risk. Sadly, we have another friend who's a healthcare provider, or who works for a major hospital as a provider. And this is a young man in his early 20s. And, supposedly this hospital is a temple of healing. But at 23, they've diagnosed him with heart issues because he works so many hours. He's gotten hooked on energy drinks in order to keep going, which to me is just such a criminal offense against sanity. This is supposed to be a place about healing, but you don't treat your staff well enough that they work reasonable hours, that can reasonably sleep and reasonably come to work and hold down their jobs and make a decent wage without having to use artificial stimulants to keep themselves awake. Like, we need to rectify the inequities in this whole system. But if you know a healthcare provider, send them an extra like on Facebook, an appreciation. I know that many have suffered deeply in watching some of the suffering and pain and loss that's happened in the culture. So deep kudos and appreciation to each and every one of you. We had a young lady who came last night for Dad to check him out, a nurse through his healthcare provider, and she was quite compassionate, quite concerned. And we've been continuing to communicate with her in appreciation for her wisdom and her generous input to supporting Jeannie's dad. So beyond that, I came across an interesting quote today, which I thought I might share with you. We've shared many quotes from Rumi over the years. This is a 13th century Sufi mystic, and I wonder if he had access to the Aramaic forgiveness process. He's Middle Eastern, speaks Arabic. I believe he was Arabic speaking now. I don't know whether he was maybe Aramaic or not. I don't know. But anyway, I wonder if he had access to the first century Aramaic forgiveness process, because the quote that I found from him, which I've never seen before, was, the highest form of learning is unlearning, undoing what doesn't belong. And of course, that's our focus with forgiveness. Speaking of which, one of the other things we'll put on the website as soon as we get the information, there's a young woman in England who does a global book study every week, and in March she's going to start. She's been working with worksheets and contacted us, and she's going to start a book study on why is this happening to me again. And we've talked to her about it. She does those. We'll make them available online to promote what she's doing, and we'll have a guided book study for people to work with. Why is this happening to me again? She's finding the worksheets to be quite exciting. This is a young lady who, if my memory serves me correctly, I actually was on with her last night on her book study, and she introduced me in the book. But the thing that spurred her was her need to do her own work. And I believe it was 5 years ago that she had a brain bleed, and went through 3 brain surgeries, 3 near-life experiences. When she came out of the final surgery, she was blind and she was paralyzed. They told her she'd never walk and that she'd never see again. And last night she was up there. One of the things she does in her book study is she has people take a little dance intermission every few minutes. So she's up there jumping around and guiding this book study. Very bright young lady. So looking forward to having that available, and we'll let you know when she's doing it, so that if you want to join it, you you can join her book study. There's also a young lady, you've actually probably heard her on the show before. It's been a few years since she's been on, but Suzanne Tucker, who does this work and has been for the last 25 years ago as a parent educator, massage therapist for children, guiding parents with children, and she's created a whole program based in the forgiveness work and gentle, loving parenting that she's been learning and teaching. So we're going to be doing a conference health-oriented for parents and children sometime in January. I don't have the specifics on that at this moment. So lots of things developing. And I'm going to jump right into, we're getting down to the end of the year, so we are now on page 167 of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And what you can do about it. And you can, if you want to follow along with us, unfortunately we can't sell you a book because we don't have any left. They're out of print. And so you can go to Amazon, and they usually have dozens of used copies available on Amazon, and the same on eBay, dozens more. So you can still order the book and get a printed book in hand. And or you can go to our website, whyagain.org. And if you click on the book cover, you can download a free copy of the book in any one of several languages. Or if you have the Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness app, there's a button there when you open it up that says More. If you click the More button, you can go right to the place where you can download the book free. You can order an audio version of a new prints of the book, which we never actually put into print, but a newly edited version is available on our website as a streaming download, or it's available as a CD package. It's actually a 6 CD package. That's pretty much, CDs are a thing of the past now, but we actually have, I don't even know how many, several hundred. We should probably put those on sale, honey, and get them into people's hands. But in any event, a new version of the book is available on audio download. It was when it was never printed. So we're on the bottom of 167 if you're following along with us, and our character Richard is now in the process of doing a worksheet, and he's looking into the idea, step 4 of the worksheet, that says, I'm willing to live peacefully. It's like, we're making a new choice to live with, instead of living in an immune-compromised way, hostility, fear, rage, guilt, grief, pain, sadness, fear, hatred, vengeance, gossip, slander, self-condemnation, instead of living in all that, he's like, oh, this is pretty cool. Step 4, I'm willing to live peacefully, to be happy, and go through the symptoms of healing. So Richard says to me, as we're going through this, he says, I do feel lighter than I have in a long time. I'm relieved. When I think about what's happening in my life, it seems as though I can't handle it. He had a slight glow, and it was great to be part of and watch his transformation. And if you remember, when Richard first showed up at the beginning of the book, he arrived at Heartland. He was escaping from his third divorce and knew that he just needed to get out of the town he was living in, and he was heading west. Somebody who knew him, knew me, and knew I'd be at Heartland, and suggested he drop by and say hello. So he dropped by looking for information, kind of recalcitrant, not really interested, but oh well, And so we're now we're in the last chapter of the book, and Richard's gone through a lot of layers. The book is I very purposely wrote it. Richard is not a real character, but he is a real composite of many characters. And he's moved from resistance to these ideas to warming up to them, to being excited about them, to being enraged about them, going through all of the things that most people carry around in their minds without realizing that they're even there. And so, here we are at chapter 24, and he's getting, keyed in. He's getting to understand what's going on. So often we turn away when we feel... turn the way we feel over to an outside source. It would be good to rid yourself of that habit There are lots of people who want to run your mind, the media, advertisers, movies, governments, religious leaders, just about everyone. It's time to take your power back. I recall the words of George Washington Carver, the man who spawned the peanut industry. As a black man in the South, back, if I remember correctly, it was in the 30s, he suffered much abuse, yet retained awareness of who was in charge of his mind. His comment on self-control was, "I will never allow any man to so defile my soul as to cause me to hate him." Phew. What a piece of wisdom. You know, Michael, there are a lot of things out there about what, quote-unquote, real men do. Sounds like real men are in charge of their own minds and lives and operate on love. Yeah. Step 5. So we're moving up to step 5 in this 12-step process. The worksheet we've actually that we teach now is a 7-step worksheet. What's kind of interesting how that came about. The 12-step worksheet was something that, well, when I wrote this book, it was a 12-step process. That was back in 94, 95, or at least that was the culmination of the book. And actually, Jeannie and I were in Hawaii speaking to a group, and there was a Course in Miracles group. And we arrived, and there was a kind of a Course in Miracles gathering. And on Sunday afternoon, at the center we were speaking at, we did the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, where we talked about forgiveness. And the group was doing, I believe it was a Wednesday night study group on Course in Miracles. So we went to, they invited us, and so we spoke at the Course in Miracles group. And I don't remember rightly how many people were there, but it was a good-sized group. And when I started to talk about forgiveness on that Wednesday night, everybody in the audience looked at me like I had holes in my head. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, we just did this workshop on Sunday. Well, what are you talking? And it was like, no comprehension. So I went back and I pared back the 12-step worksheets to 7 steps in order to try to kind of compact it a little bit, realizing that when you start to invite people to shift out of the constructs of their minds that they're habituated to, that unconsciousness can tend to run the show. So in this worksheet, step 5 is designed to restore love to your mind and confirm that you've done it successfully. If hostility or fear remains active, you will not be able to see what you love about a person or situation. So, we put into focus there the fact that there are 3 filters in the human mind. One is Rachma, in Aramaic, filter, that is a gateway for human life, love, to enter the human form, and blocks intentions keyed to negativity or destruction. Allows intentions keyed to love only to be active in the mind. And then there's the fear filter, and that fear filter blocks everything except that which is destructive. Pardon me. In that case, it's everything but what is negative. And then there's the hostility filter that blocks everything but what is destructive. And that only one filter can be active at a time. So step 5 is about educating people that here's how the mind works. If you don't know how to keep it fueled properly, you can't have a functional mind. It's like, you would think that'd be one of the first things they teach us in kindergarten. What happened? What happened that school systems developed that the teacher actually had a thing called a strap that they would hit kids with if they didn't do what they were told to do, thus guaranteeing that the fear filter or the hostility filter would be active in those children by the time they hit kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Like, how insane is that? But, that's sadly, the culture. Now, on the other hand, the permissive game is, okay, well, we never hit kids now, but then you just let them run amok. There's no accountability, and there's no education as to, here's how you make your mind work properly. In order for your mind to work properly, it's got to be fueled by love, and if it isn't, you're in trouble. Most adults are shocked when they realize that. So when you can see what you love, it is because the condition of love is in your mind. When the condition of love is in your mind, then you can be the space of love for what you see. So when your mind is tuned to or fueled by love, then you can remain active and present as love, whatever you're looking at. And so this step 5 is about activating that filter in the mind. And the language of it specifically is, I choose to restore the condition of love to my mind. And then there's a self-test. A loving thought I can hold about 1A. And so if you remember 1A, we named the object of attention of the worksheet that you were going to do, wherever your mind had placed the upset, I'm angry with, I'm sad about, I'm whatever it is. And so now there's a test to tell whether or not you've reset Rockwell, whether or not your mind is being fueled properly. And that is, in this case, Richard was doing a worksheet on his sister, Amy. And what he's able to tap into her and hold a space of love for is that Amy reaches out to me often. And then, so that was having reset love, what he could see about Amy, who, if you remember in the worksheet, he wanted to get rid of, wanted to kick her out of his life. And then the self-test again is to think about himself as the object of attention and to see something, tuned to love about that. And he says, yeah, I'm becoming responsible. So he's starting to see both himself and the people in his life differently. He looked a little sad as he processed how he'd pushed his sister away. Richard touched into a deep space of love for her. A deep space of love in himself as he thought about her, and had been long lost since his childhood hostility. Several minutes passed. Take a breath, Richard. Let's go on to step 6, where you can identify what you want. It is important in this step to make sure you use only words that reflect what you actually want. You mean words like, what I really want is not to be angry with Amy? Is that an appropriate answer in step 6, he asked? Well, what is it that you want? You sound like you're really clear on what you don't want. The more you don't want it, the more powerfully you will create it in your world. So notice that when we talk to him about what he wants, it's like his conversations about what he really doesn't want. I don't want to be angry with Amy. And so often when you ask people to look for what they want, they language it in terms of what they don't want, and they wonder why they get it. And go back to Yeshua 2,000 years ago. He says, the power of life and death is in your words. And you want to start to move your mind in the direction of not resistance to what you don't want, therefore couching things in terms of what you don't. Oh, I don't ever want to be abused again. I don't ever be in a relationship with a person who scorns me. I don't ever, all the things that people don't want. And they wonder why they keep getting it. When you begin to apply forgiveness, you begin to remove those things that never belonged within your structure. So once again, what is it you want, Richard? You sound like you're really clear on what you don't want, but the more you don't want it, the more powerfully you will create it in your world. How so? I don't see what's wrong with what I said. Richard, it's not a matter of being wrong. Remember, focusing is a creative act, and your words reflect what you're creating. What you focus on is what you create. When you focus on what you don't want, you create out of avoidance and automatically create what you're avoiding. It does not matter whether you focus on something out of love or hate. If you thought it, you got it. Well, how would you suggest I word what I want, Michael? Sounds to me like you want to be connected and appreciated as much as your sister. That's it. That's what I want. Emotion welled up as he thought about the possibility of actually being cared for and appreciated, as he said his sister had always been. So he fills in step 6. What I really want is, and the instructions say use positive words only, to be appreciated and cherished, cared for as much as my sister Amy. And if you're reading along in the book, you'll notice that I'm shifting the meaning of the word love there. Back in it was actually the 20 years prior to 1995 when I finished that book, I was as tricked into the culture as most everybody else is, and I thought love was a verb and it was something that we did so we could love people and they could love us, and I didn't know any better. So forgive my ignorance. Pardon me for my ignorance, if you would, and let's move in the direction of languaging accurately. So I was using the word love as a verb, as the culture does generally, and that I realized was a mega major error. Well, why would that be such an error, Michael? Because the mind is a device governed by and directed by words, and if you define words incorrectly, then you can never put the mind on track for what it is that you want. So when you say, well, I just want them to love me, you're looking for, searching for, and asking for the impossible. Well, I just want to love them. It's impossible. Got some really bad news. Nobody's ever loved you. Nobody's ever going to love you. You've never loved anyone. You're never going to love anyone. It's not possible. Love is a noun. It's what you remember the question of hold the newborn child? Just take a moment, take a breath, and remember the first time you held a newborn child and tap into the essence of that newborn. What word would you use to describe that newborn essence? Clearly, it's love. And notice that the newborn isn't loving you, but that the newborn is love. Love is a state of being. It's what we are. It's not something we do to each other or get from each other or give to each other. And if we give the mind incorrect instructions with incorrect meanings of words, then we make the task we've assigned the mind impossible. And then when the mind fails, it creates chemistry that tends to keep us locked into failure. So it's a big correction in the book every time I've used the word love incorrectly, which I did often back then. And so we'll move forward with that understanding. And tomorrow we'll pick up, and, we're at the, let's see, page 169 right in the middle. We'll pick that up tomorrow and carry on. Or Monday. It's Friday already. That's right.
And we have a handout.
Oh, great. Let's say hello.
All right. There's a 610. I think it's Susan. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Well, hey, young lady.
Boy, howdy. So interesting about what you're learning from this COVID thing. And
it's
scary
awesome.
About the antibiotics that we take that we shouldn't be, and all these things. I do have a couple of sort of health-related questions.
Before you move forward, just let me address that. Antibiotics and things we shouldn't be taking. I didn't say don't ever take an antibiotic. You would never hear me say that. I would offer that it's something to be aware of and to be careful about, but there are places where antibiotics are definitely a big assist and a big help, but the thing to recognize is that they're not healing. And if you're going to but treatment can be life-saving, no question. An antibiotic can save a life, but it can't heal a life. So as long as we see that, if we get ourselves into a posture where, well, that substance that treats can save my life and it won't heal me, but I'll put beside it healing, now I've got a winning package because I'm doing both.
Good.
That'd just be my thought in that direction.
Okay. I listened to a webinar by an MD friend of mine who's also a functional medical doctor and nutritionist. Great webinar. She was talking about COVID and the vaccine, and she was saying whether you're getting the vaccine or not, it's basically what you were saying, Michael. We should take care of our bodies, be as well as we can at all times to field whatever is coming in. And she was saying if you're going to have the vaccine, and maybe you need to because you can't go to certain places and you need to, or your work insists on it, she said just do what you would if you were trying to stay well in general, or if you were sick with COVID, just beef up your immune system as much as possible. And one of the things you can do is intermittent fasting, and that's my question.
Yes.
I didn't get to ask her what that is. That one whole day without a meal, or skipping a meal, or drinking? Anyway, what is that to you?
Well, there are many thoughts on fasting, and actually there's a lot on YouTube that you might want to watch, and there's a lot to educate yourself around the idea of fasting. I know that back in the early days of studying naturopathy and doing this work, I would do fasts up to 40 days, and at times that would be a 40-day fast where I'd do nothing but water for 40 days. And then I discovered what I found to be quite an effective and fun fast, and that was, and I just did this once, but I did a 40-day fast on popcorn and water.
Wow.
And that was a pretty cool fast. And, popcorn is something that doesn't have a lot of complexity to it. There's lots of bulk, so it keeps bowels open and moving. And it's a mono diet so that your digestive system, the idea of a fast is to give the digestive system a rest. Digestion is a really inefficient way to get energy and nutrients into the structure. So if you give it an extended rest, it sets the whole immune system up to tweak the structure and do some healing and cleansing work. So there are fasts, there's a guy who got, I don't remember his name offhand, it might have been a team, I don't remember, but where they got a Nobel Prize for the discoveries that they had on how life extension occurred because of intermittent fasting, and that they looked at how digestion works, and I don't remember exactly the hours, but that if you fasted between the hours of something like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you didn't eat until 11 o'clock the next day, that was an effective way to give your immune system a chance to do some house cleaning and your digestive system to work more effectively. So there's a wide range of theories about fasting. I've done a bunch of different ones, and actually, Jeannie and I have talked for probably a year about how both of us know we need to do some fasting, and we just haven't done it. We've been kind of lazy about it and lax about it. I mean, I used to be really on top of it. I used to fast, 1 day a week and 3 days a quarter and 1 week a year, and we've gotten too soft, and Jeannie's all this Southern cooking, and so we've become a little bit too much foodie oriented. But one of the gifts of COVID has been we haven't been eating much. So it's actually what, Jeannie, since it started, you've lost 7 pounds on COVID?
As of this morning, I've lost almost 8.5 pounds in 8 days. That's not an easy way to do it, though. I wouldn't suggest it. No. But I had already joined a program called Noom and had released like 23 pounds since the beginning of the year. So this is another 8 pounds on top of that all at once. And I'm sure that once we start eating better and more, like we kind of are living on apples, oranges, and miso soup right now. But I'm sure when we start eating again that yeah, for sure. And I am taking an antibiotic right now for the part of it that's in my lungs.
Yeah.
So, there is always a place and time for all of it.
Mhm.
For sure.
Yeah. So interesting. I had a friend who used to do a juice fast once a week. Now, juice is full of
Right.
sugar, so I haven't wanted to do that. And Tim and I love to eat, but we do eat very, like in the evening, we might have a bean soup and a salad, or we might just have the salad. I make a big fat smoothie at lunch that's got all kinds of great stuff in it. And breakfast is very simple. So I don't know whether you could call that a fast. I'd like to call that a fast so I don't have to fast, because I really like eating. But also, I'm kind of on the skinny side. I wouldn't want to lose any more weight. I feel as if what I have now I'm going to maybe need sometime. So
You
I
want
wouldn't
to keep
do
it
for weight loss. What?
You want to keep the weight you've got, for sure. It's wise.
Yeah. Say that again, Michael. You want to keep it because
because you do need a certain amount of weight, especially if there's any kind of illness that comes along. You need to have some weight on you. So I think that's wisdom. And a mono diet, simplifying your diet, can be close to doing a fast without going to the extreme of I do no food at all or I just do water.
Yeah. Right.
And, religious traditions, every religious tradition has its fasting in it. And in fact, there's a particular passage where the disciples, they've been out healing. They come back to Yeshua and said, but, we came across this one guy, and we could not get him healed. We don't know what it was. And Yeshua said, those ones only come out with prayer and fasting.
Oh, yeah.
And what he was saying is, there's some tough stuff in this structure that you really have to key into conscious, active, present love, which is prayer, becoming the space where love shows up, and that you deprive the stomach of food. There's a thesis in the naturopathic world that says that the part of the brain that seats the ego self is fed directly from the stomach. And when you cut food off from the stomach, that part of the brain goes fuzzy, goes crazy, and the ego starts to literally come undone. So that's why I believe that's why fasting is part of virtually every spiritual tradition that's ever come down the pike.
That's so interesting, yeah. But they do say if you're young, if you're a child, or if you're pregnant, or if you're old, and I'm old, so I say, I don't have to fast. You can see there's a little resistance here to the idea of fasting. I'm making excuses. But anyway, I do admire people who do that. Anyway, so.
Well, when she talked about intermittent fasting, again, you might want to do some searching on YouTube University and look at intermittent fasting, where it just restricts the hours that you eat. And they found that these are the hours where the digestive system is at its peak efficiency and can really handle and digest food, and then the hours where it needs to rest and the body goes into an eliminative cycle, and that when you cooperate with that, you've really enhanced your health. Again, that was a Nobel Prize winning piece of work that was done just not too long ago, a few years back.
Yeah. Oh, boy. And then we get, and I don't have the list with me, but we get into eating things that only have one or two ingredients, which I think is a great idea. Tim and I have discovered this kind of pizza that's made of cauliflower because we're gluten-free. We have this cauliflower pizza. To my horror, it's quite a few ingredients in it that probably aren't so good for you. And I wish I'd saved the label, but I imagine they have to do with making the cauliflower stick to itself like xanthan gum or something. And and so I'm wondering maybe we should not do that anymore, although who knows. Anyway, I'm just curious about the whole thing. But I will
in the last analysis, I don't think we're ever, especially in this culture, unless we're self-sufficient, we're producing all of our own food, I don't think we're ever going to get it perfect. So the other side of the coin is, if you decide you're going to do it, bless it, connect to love, and enjoy it. Whatever it is.
Good, I like that.
You know, if it's a chocolate sundae, go for it and enjoy it. You know, that cow puss can be fun.
Oh, quiet, Michael, with your cow puss. I can't have, of course, I'm off of it anyway, but the last time I had ice cream, I was saying cow puss, and that, boy, how to ruin it.
What a great word association, eh? A wordling.
Right.
See how powerful wordlings can be?
Bad, yes.
Oh, well.
So I have a couple more questions. One of them's for Jeannie. You know, with dementia, there's often incredible anxiety, and I was hoping that your dad was not anxious while he's going through this.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that too. I had asked the nurse if he would have Dad call me, and you know, just so I could talk to him, and because nobody can go see him and let him know, you know, what's going on and that we're all thinking about him and stuff. But they haven't called back yet, so I may have to call the hospital again when we get off the show.
Boy. Yeah.
But yeah, they said,
Although
you know, that he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, since this COVID thing started in the house, we have stayed away from him as much as possible, and I think he has become somewhat anxious. Normally, he's pretty balanced. He's pretty settled. He's really got a very sweet temperament, but we've found that, especially with the Alzheimer's stuff going on, that when we keep him stimulated, like probably one of the best days he's had, and you know, this relates to how we made contact with COVID, was for 2 days in a row we went out car shopping. And, you know, so early we got in the car, we stopped at a dealer, we drove a car, we did another test drive, and we went out for something to eat. So there was a lot of stimulation, and, you know, he was right there. But then the last several days where we've known there's been COVID here, we've been kind of staying away from him, and he seems to have withdrawn into himself, and I think some anxiety has come up for him with that. So.
Yeah.
It has been a challenge.
Poor guy. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Jeannie, I appreciate that you texted me. Thank you so much. I was really touched that you would send me news. I loved it. Of course, I didn't like the news, but I just thought it was very kind of you.
Well, I appreciate that you were asking, and so I'll gladly send you information as I get it.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. So,
thank you.
One last unrelated question. There is a quality in the rage of a person who's got a diagnosis. I know what you think about diagnosis, Michael, but there is a quality of rage that I have experienced in my son-in-law, and I have a sister with a bipolar son, and I had a good friend. When they flip into this rage, it's like outside of the normal anger that a person, even intense anger, can be still, there's a rationality, a capacity to be communicating. This other kind of rage, and this is my garbage too, I find terrifying. And It is a kind of rage that my skin crawl or prickle. It's like there's some psychic danger which is just massive. And I wondered if you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Absolutely, yes. And the reason for it, remember, hostility is an anesthetic. It's a drug. And that rage that you're talking about, and you tied the words together perfectly, is a reflection of terror. The thing it's covering is the terror of, it can be the anxiety of the 3-year-old who's obliterated emotionally. Remember when we talked about the power person dynamic, that one of those things is that the child or the object of the situation perceives the situation as life-threatening, as survival. And that survival isn't necessarily just physical, but it can be psychological. So the child who's obliterated psychologically at 3 is literally in deep, deep terror for survival itself. And if that's never uncovered and forgiven, never acknowledged and dealt with, then in the future, in order to avoid that, whenever something gets close enough to resonating that, the cover is going to be a matching level of rage, a matching intensity of rage that matches the terror. And, just to create a safe space to allow that sort of thing to open for somebody to touch in, to literally, truly touch into that level of trauma and be safe enough to actually touch it within themselves is profound, to create a safe enough space. I remember in the intensive when you guys were there, we talked about why a lot of the things we do is to create that safe space where people get to the point where, okay, I normally wouldn't allow myself to even look here, but now I feel enough support that I can, and that's one of the keys to healing.
Well, but I hear you. In my experience, though, especially with my son-in-law, he would almost have a physical jerk. Suddenly we'd know he was going to do it. And
physical trauma.
I would feel the terror. I suppose he'd buried it. And so what he's expressing is simply just annihilating rage toward the other person. So they're not really feeling it.
My take is the annihilating rage is the anesthetic that's covering the terror of his experience of trauma where he felt like he was annihilated, where he experienced being annihilated. And this is the anesthetic. This is the drug.
Wow, and it's so communicable. I mean, the recipient...
Matching bags of garbage. People say, I'm an empath. I feel other people's pain. That's such a crock. Nobody's ever felt anybody else's pain. But if I have a pain that matches your pain and your pain starts to move, my pain that matches yours is going to move. And if I'm in denial, I'm going to pretend I'm feeling your pain. Hey, I can avoid it. When I realize that what I'm feeling is, and I do.
I didn't think I was feeling his pain. I was just scared shitless of his anger.
Yeah.
So is that the same thing?
Yeah. Well, it's the matching bag of garbage. If I didn't have a resonance with that person's trauma, I'd simply stand as a space of conscious, active, present love.
Okay.
The thing that comes up for me in this is back several years ago at Heartland, we had a young man who's very involved in the work. He is former military. His wife kind of dragged him to a workshop that we had at a private home. He didn't know what he was coming to, and when he met me, his brag, this big guy, 6'3", tough guy, his brag was that he was the best killer in his military unit and he was the best trainer on how to kill the enemy, and that was like his claim to fame and his pride and joy. He ended up teaching this work. But I remember that one of the healing sessions that we went through at Heartland, we don't allow weapons of any kind, and this young man from the day of his military training never went anywhere without a weapon. And I found that out during the intensive, and I confronted him in the intensive, and there were people who were, I guess, quaking in their boots for me because I went up to him, got face-to-face with him, and said, Michael, you need to give me the knife. You can't have a knife in this room. And people watched him boil and watched the breakdown that happened and thought he was going to kill me.
Oh, my God.
And it was shortly after that for this young man that we did a still point session, and he touched into and actually, I mean, we became very close, and he shared a lot of what his process was and a lot of what went on. But this one particular breath session that he did, he touched into something that was so terrorizing with him as an infant, with his mother, and I don't know. He never shared what the memory was, what came up. But it was shortly after that he got safe enough to go into that and to process through it. And it left him devastated. I mean, this is a guy who was a compulsive talker. He always had something to say, and for 3 days he didn't say a word hardly. In the intensive, he just was silent. But he went to that, the core ultimate trauma of his life in that situation. And he had to get safe enough to be there without having to have a weapon just in case.
Wow. Holy crap. It's great that you were well enough to be able to stand there as the active space of love, as you say. Wow. Good work.
It's all a learning opportunity.
Wow, so interesting. Okay. Thanks for answering those things.
So a gift you can give your former son-in-law, and I know you're estranged at this point, but a gift you can still give him is to go back to those moments where it brought such terror up for you because of his rage, and to forgive, to let loose of that terror that you experienced in his presence, and to hold him in the space as you do that can be a big contribution to the healing of his sons that I know you're working with so deeply. So that'll be another piece of work you can do.
Okay. I love it. Thanks.
All right. Well, we're down to the last 60 seconds or so. So I'm going to say thank you for that conversation, young lady. We appreciate you deeply. And everybody, create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world, and blessings.